Hi, my name is Jared Lowich, and this is my presentation on body language and nonverbal communication. Body language and nonverbal communication. It's unconscious knowledge of what is happening. Body language isn't just the body, the face plays a large role as well. Facial expressions are the easiest to distinguish. Body language can be used to conceal the truth, aka lie. Also, body language plays a large role in human courting. The first article I did was recent developments in nonverbal communication. There are different forms of nonverbal communication. Paralanguage. This includes intonation, pitch, speed of talking, hesitation noises, gestures, and facial expression. Facial expression has a chapter of its own, and it explores the biological roots of nonverbal communication. Facial expressions can have a large impact on how we speak or how we feel. The facial feedback theory says that facial expressions are capable of influencing our emotion, meaning that smiling can make you feel happier. Facial expressions are used to express all of the major emotions, and it transcends regular language barriers. So that would be emotions such as happiness, fear, sadness, anger, surprise, disgust. And all these emotions are interpreted in similar ways across different cultures. Second article I did was Scientists Snatch Body Language. Body language of women, it was about the body language of a woman and how she could portray herself as being available to men. They speak of a system called the PON system, which is the profile of nonverbal sensitivity. It's a 45-minute film tested the ability to judge face, body, and voice tone cues of nonverbal communication. The PONS test is used to explain the validity and meaning rather than the social implications of this nonverbal communication. Many disadvantages were associated with using the PONS test, including that nonverbal cues were used in isolation, whereas cues normally are accompanied by meaningful verbal content. The PONS system doesn't necessarily represent situations that would naturally occur, and the channels used may not be the best way to measure them either. And a single female performer was used in all the cases, and they could have come up with better results using maybe a bunch of different females instead of just one. The next article I did was Male Interviewers, Nonverbal Dominance Predicts Lower Evaluations of Applicants in Simulated Job Interviews. Now this one I really liked because I thought it was very, very applicable, and what I thought would happen did. Actual nonverbal behaviors of the interviews can hinder female applicants' performance in simulated job interviews. Every single person being interviewed was a female, every single one. The interviewers had predetermined to portray certain nonverbal dominance and friendliness, and they were all male, all the interviewers. So what they came up with was that lower self-evaluations of female applicants and lower evaluations were made by the interviewers. The implications of this study were found to be increasing the importance of the acknowledgement and the changing of nonverbal dynamics to improve women's performance in job interviews. The next article I did was Crocodile Tears, Facial, Verbal, and Body Language Behaviors Associated with Genuine and Fabricated Remorse. So I was speaking of in the beginning with lying. This is focused more on the nature of true or false remorse. Facial, verbal, and body language behaviors associated with emotional deception, and videotapes accounts of true personal transgressions accompanied by either genuine or falsified remorse. This was the first of its kind, the first kind of test that they ever did like this, and they were investigating the nature of true and false remorse. Over 300,000 frames were analyzed and showed that falsified remorse was associated with a greater range of emotional expressions. Negative emotions were more commonly followed by other emotions rather than returning to a neutral emotion. Implication of this: the sincerity of an offender expressing remorse is an important factor in sentencing and parole hearings. So when people are in prison and they're trying to get out on parole, they go before a board, and the board likes to see if people have remorse for the crimes that they have committed. And if you're able to falsify that, it'd make it easier for somebody who isn't sorry for what they did to get out. So it's important for people to know, to have the ability to understand what is real and what is fabricated to make an informed decision. Deception is a common aspect of human social interaction. People admit to using deceit, lying, in 14% of emails, 27% of face-to-face interaction, and 37% of phone calls, while lying on average twice a day. People often conceal a lie about their true thoughts, and this has to do with the fundamental attribution error. We assume that people's statements reflect their honest and trustworthy dispositions, but the fundamental attribution error is a tendency to overestimate the role of personal causes and underestimate the role of situational causes in predicting behavior.